The Galactic Council's military command center buzzed with activity as alien officers from 12 different species reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Commander Zex Thul, a towering Krathari with 4 arms and crystalline skin, spread holographic displays across the main table. His 3 eyes focused on the data streaming from the contested planet of Kepler 442b. These humans continue to resist our occupation, Zex Thul announced to his assembled officers. Their technology is primitive, their weapons outdated, yet they persist in this foolish rebellion. General Voska, a serpentine Naxian whose scaled body coiled around her command chair, hissed in amusement. I've studied their military tactics extensively, Commander. They rely heavily on what they call snipers, lone soldiers who hide at great distances and take single shots. It's laughably inefficient. The other officers erupted in chittering laughter. Captain Mordex, a bulky Thurian with gray hide as thick as armor plating, pounded his massive fist on the table. Single shots? Our battle shields can deflect their primitive kinetic rounds. We have energy barriers, personal force fields, and regenerative bioarmor. What can one human with an old projectile weapon possibly accomplish? Lieutenant Quintar, a spindly Vexani whose compound eyes glowed with pale blue light, brought up tactical displays showing human sniper positions. Our surveillance drones have identified over 200 sniper nests across the primary continent. Each position contains only 1 or 2 humans. They carry chemical propellant weapons that fire metal projectiles, technology our ancestors abandoned millennia ago. Pathetic, General Vosika spat. Our lowest-ranking soldiers carry plasma rifles with guided ammunition. Our heavy weapons can level city blocks. These humans cling to their ancient rifles like primitive savages. Commander Zex Thul manipulated the holographic display, showing heat signatures and movement patterns across the battlefield. Intelligence reports suggest they have one particular sniper, causing minor disruptions to our supply lines. The humans have given this individual some sort of mythical designation. They call him the Ghost. Our analysts believe this is merely psychological warfare, an attempt to create fear through superstition. The assembled officers found this even more amusing. Captain Mordex's booming laughter shook the command center. A ghost? These humans and their fairy tales. Do they think we're children afraid of bedtime stories? The reports are curious, though, Lieutenant Quintar admitted, his voice carrying a slight tremor. 17 of our forward outposts have been struck. Each time critical personnel were eliminated with single shots from extreme distances. Our soldiers never saw the shooter, never detected muzzle flashes, never found spent ammunition casings. Coincidence and luck, General Voska dismissed. Eventually, even primitive weapons can find their targets. Our soldiers were probably careless, removing their helmets during what they thought were secure moments. Commander Zex Thul nodded agreement. Precisely. We've become complacent occupying this backwards world. Our troops need reminding that even primitive enemies can occasionally pose minor threats. The command center's main screen activated, showing a live feed from Colonel Thaxmore, a veteran Krathari officer commanding ground forces on Kepler 442b. His image flickered slightly due to atmospheric interference. Commander Zex Thul, Colonel Thaxmore reported, I'm transmitting our latest casualty reports. We've lost another 3 patrol leaders in the past rotation. Each was eliminated by long-range fire from unknown positions. Colonel, Commander Zex Thul responded, you have orbital bombardment capabilities, atmospheric fighters, and heavy ground artillery. Why haven't you simply eliminated these sniper positions? Sir, we've tried. Our thermal imaging shows no heat signatures at the suspected firing locations. Our electromagnetic sensors detect no energy weapons. Our acoustic triangulation systems can't pinpoint the source of these shots. It's as if the projectiles materialize from empty air. The officers in the command center exchanged glances. Lieutenant Quintar's compound eyes dimmed with concern. Colonel, described the wounds on our casualties. That's unusual, Lieutenant. Each victim was struck in a critical vulnerability spot. The gap between helmet and body armor, the joint where arm protection meets chest plating, the small opening near our breathing apparatus. These hits required knowledge of our equipment specifications. General Voska's forked tongue flicked out nervously. Impossible. Our armor designs are classified military secrets. No human could possess such detailed information. Furthermore, Colonel Thaxmore continued, The projectiles themselves are peculiar. They're made of simple iron and lead, but they've been modified in ways our metallurgists don't understand. The metal shows microscopic structural changes that shouldn't be possible with human technology. Captain Mordex snorted dismissively. You're all overthinking the situation. These humans got lucky a few times. Deploy additional patrols, increase surveillance coverage, and flood the area with troops. No single primitive shooter can stand against overwhelming force. Respectfully, Captain, Colonel Thaxmore said, we've tried that approach. 3 different companies have swept the suspected sniper zones. Each sweep team suffered casualties from the same long-range attacks. Our soldiers are beginning to request transfers away from sniper-prone areas. Commander Zexthul's crystalline skin darkened with anger. Are you telling me that our elite Galactic Council forces are afraid of one human with an antique weapon? Not afraid, sir. Confused and concerned. Our tactical manuals don't contain protocols for dealing with an enemy who can't be detected, tracked, or located, yet consistently eliminates our personnel from impossible distances. The command center fell silent. Each officer contemplated the implications of Colonel Thaxmore's report. Finally, General Vosica broke the silence. Colonel, implement Protocol 7. Establish kill zones around all strategic positions. Any movement within 2 kilometers of our installations should be met with immediate, overwhelming firepower. If this ghost wants to play hiding games, we'll eliminate every possible hiding spot. Understood, General. Implementing Protocol 7 immediately. As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Quintar accessed his personal data pad, reviewing psychological profiles of human military personnel. Commanders, I've been studying human warfare extensively. Their history shows remarkable adaptability and persistence in the face of superior technology. Perhaps we should consider that their sniping traditions represent more than primitive stubbornness. Meaning what, Lieutenant? Commander Zexthul demanded. Meaning that while we've focused on technological superiority, humans have spent centuries perfecting the art of individual marksmanship. They've developed techniques, equipment modifications, and tactical approaches that we may not fully understand. Captain Mordex waved a dismissive hand. Technique means nothing against superior firepower and advanced defense systems. This conversation is pointless. One human sniper, no matter how skilled, cannot significantly impact our military operations. Outside the command center's reinforced walls, space stretched endlessly in all directions. On the planet's surface far below, humanity's resistance continued its desperate fight against overwhelming odds. In hidden positions across the contested continents, human snipers maintained their lonely vigils, waiting for opportunities to strike back against their alien occupiers. Among them, one figure moved through the wilderness with supernatural quiet, carrying equipment that represented centuries of human innovation in the deadly art of precision shooting. The aliens called him Ghost, but his real name was Marcus Chen, and he was about to teach the galaxy's most advanced military forces that sometimes the oldest weapons, wielded by the right hands, could still change the course of wars. Marcus Chen adjusted his rifle's scope with practiced precision, watching alien patrol movements through the early morning mist. 3 kilometers away, a Krathari squadron established their morning checkpoint routine, unaware they were being observed. Marcus had been tracking this particular unit for 5 days, learning their patterns, timing their movements, identifying their weaknesses. The rifle in his hands looked deceptively simple, a modified human design that incorporated materials salvaged from crashed alien technology. The barrel had been reforged using alien metallurgy techniques, the ammunition crafted from recovered alien materials, and the scope enhanced with captured enemy optics. Every component represented humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt and improve using whatever resources were available. Marcus breathed slowly, feeling his heartbeat steady as he entered the meditative state that all master snipers cultivated. His grandfather had taught him to shoot on the family ranch in Montana. His father had served as a military sniper in 3 different conflicts. The Chen family had been perfecting the art of precision shooting for 4 generations, and Marcus represented the culmination of that knowledge. Through his scope, he watched the alien patrol leader, a Krathari officer designated Target Alpha. The creature stood nearly 3 meters tall, its forearms constantly moving as it directed subordinates. Crystalline skin glinted in the sunlight, beautiful and seemingly impenetrable. The aliens wore advanced body armor that could deflect most human weapons, energy shields that absorbed projectile impacts, and carried sensors that detected heat signatures, electromagnetic emissions, and movement patterns. But Marcus had discovered something the aliens didn't know about themselves. Their armor was designed to protect against energy weapons and high-velocity impacts. However, there was a small gap near the base of the skull where their breathing apparatus connected to their environmental systems. The gap was only millimeters wide, protected by a thin membrane that their designers never intended to be a vulnerability point. Marcus had made this shot 17 times before. Each time he'd selected a different approach angle, used different concealment techniques, and employed various methods to mask his position. He'd learned to shoot through atmospheric distortions, around energy fields, and past electronic countermeasures. Every successful shot taught him something new about alien physiology and equipment limitations. The range was 3,247 meters, according to his modified laser rangefinder. Wind speed was 4 kilometers per hour from the northwest. Atmospheric pressure was slightly lower than Earth normal. Temperature was 18 degrees Celsius. Humidity was 37%. Marcus calculated these factors automatically, adjustments becoming second nature after years of practice. His ammunition was special, bullets crafted from alien hull materials that he'd salvaged and reforged. The metal possessed properties that human science couldn't fully explain, but Marcus understood its practical effects. These projectiles could penetrate alien energy shields if fired at precise angles and velocities. They remained stable across extreme distances and maintained their trajectory through electromagnetic interference. Target Alpha moved into position. Marcus controlled his breathing, slowing his heart rate through meditation techniques learned from his grandfather. The old man had taught him that shooting was 90% mental preparation and 10% physical execution. The rifle doesn't make the shot, his grandfather always said. The mind makes the shot. The rifle just delivers it. Marcus squeezed the trigger with steady pressure, following through with perfect form. The rifle's modified suppressor reduced both sound and muzzle flash to nearly undetectable levels. The bullet traveled its long arc through the thin atmosphere, carrying with it centuries of human knowledge about warfare, survival, and the deadly art of precision shooting. 2 seconds later, Target Alpha collapsed. The other aliens immediately activated emergency protocols, raising energy shields and scanning for threats. Their sensors found nothing. No heat signature, no electromagnetic emissions, no movement patterns. Marcus had already shifted positions, moving through concealment routes he'd prepared days in advance. As he repositioned, Marcus reflected on the broader situation. Humanity was losing this war in conventional terms. Alien technology was superior in almost every category. Their weapons were more powerful, their armor more advanced, their ships faster and better defended. Humanity's industrial capacity couldn't match galactic production capabilities, and their population was tiny compared to the Galactic Council's resources. But the aliens had made one critical error in their assessment of human capabilities. They'd assumed that technological superiority automatically translated to tactical supremacy. They'd never encountered an enemy that could consistently exploit the small gaps in their defenses, never faced opponents who could adapt alien technology to serve human purposes. Marcus reached his secondary position, a carefully prepared hide site that offered multiple escape routes. Through his scope, he observed the aliens' reaction to their leader's death. Panic, confusion, fear. They understood that something had killed their commander from an impossible distance, but they couldn't comprehend how or where the attack had originated. A new officer, Target Beta, assumed command. This Krathari was younger, more aggressive, and apparently less cautious than his predecessor. Marcus watched as the new leader organized search patterns, deployed surveillance drones, and established overlapping fields of fire, standard Galactic Council anti-sniper protocols, exactly as described in the technical manuals that Marcus had memorized. The aliens' tactical doctrine was rigid, predictable, and based on technological solutions to tactical problems. They relied on sensors instead of intuition, on firepower instead of patience, on overwhelming force instead of surgical precision. These approaches worked effectively against conventional enemies. But Marcus wasn't conventional. Marcus was the product of a planet where survival meant adapting to hostile environments with limited resources. Earth's history was filled with examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through superior tactics, better knowledge of local conditions, and deeper understanding of warfare's psychological dimensions. Every human sniper carried this heritage in their training, their mindset, and their approach to combat. The new alien commander made his first mistake by establishing a command post in the same location where his predecessor had died. Target Beta apparently believed that showing fearlessness would inspire his troops. Instead, he'd just provided Marcus with a predictable target at a known range. Marcus made minute adjustments to his scope, accounting for the slight change in wind direction and the different height of his new target. This Krathari was shorter than Target Alpha, which meant the vulnerable gap in his armor was positioned differently. Marcus calculated the necessary angle modification and prepared for his second shot of the day. Through his scope, he could see the alien troops' body language. Their movements were more tentative now, less confident. They kept looking over their shoulders, scanning the horizon, checking their sensors repeatedly. The death of their leader had introduced an element of uncertainty into their operations, and uncertainty was a sniper's greatest ally. Marcus controlled his breathing again, entering the meditative state that transformed him from a human being into a precision instrument. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. The enemy sees only the bullet's arrival. They never see the hours of preparation, the days of planning, the years of training. They think it's luck or magic, but it's really just dedication applied with patience. The trigger broke cleanly under steady pressure. Target Beta never knew what hit him. As the second alien leader fell, Marcus was already moving toward his tertiary position. Behind him, he could hear the aliens' confused shouting, their electronic equipment beeping frantically as they tried to locate a threat that existed only in the space between one heartbeat and the next. The ghost had struck again, and the galaxy's most advanced military forces were no closer to understanding how one human, with a primitive rifle, could consistently outmaneuver their technological superiority. General Voska coiled her serpentine body tighter around her command chair as casualty reports continued flooding in from Kepler 442b. 23 alien officers had been eliminated in the past week, each death bearing the same impossible characteristics: single shots from undetectable positions at ranges that should have been beyond human capability. This is becoming a serious problem, she hissed to Commander Zexthul. Our ground forces are requesting additional support, and morale is deteriorating rapidly. Some units are refusing patrol assignments in sniper-prone areas. Commander Zexthul's crystalline skin had darkened to deep purple, indicating extreme frustration. His four hands worked frantically across holographic controls, reviewing tactical data and intelligence reports. How can one primitive human consistently outmaneuver our most advanced detection systems? Our sensors can track objects the size of insects from orbital distances. Our electromagnetic nets can detect the smallest energy emissions. Our acoustic arrays can pinpoint the location of a whisper. Perhaps we're approaching this problem incorrectly, suggested Lieutenant Quintar, his compound eyes flickering with nervous energy. I've been analyzing human historical military records. Their sniping traditions extend back centuries, long before they developed advanced technology. They've refined techniques for remaining undetected that don't rely on electronic countermeasures. Captain Mordex snorted dismissively, though his usual confidence seemed somewhat diminished. Techniques? What techniques could possibly evade our surveillance capabilities? Natural camouflage, sir. Patient observation of target patterns, understanding of environmental factors like wind, humidity, and atmospheric distortion. Knowledge of ballistics that allows accurate shooting across extreme distances. Most importantly, they've developed methods for remaining completely still for extended periods while maintaining perfect accuracy. General Voska accessed her personal database, reviewing human physiology reports. Their biological limitations should prevent them from achieving the precision we're observing. Human vision can't resolve targets clearly at the distances these shots are being made. Human hands aren't steady enough for such accuracy. Human weapons lack the technological sophistication for reliable long-range engagements. Unless, Lieutenant Quintar said quietly, they found ways to overcome those limitations through training, equipment modification, and tactical innovation. The command center's main screen activated, showing an emergency transmission from Colonel Thaxamore. The veteran officer's image revealed obvious stress. His crystalline skin was pale and his 4 hands trembled slightly. Command, we have a situation developing. The human they call Ghost has eliminated another patrol leader, but this time we observed the aftermath more carefully. The shot came from a position that our scouts had cleared just 2 hours earlier. There was no one there when we checked. That's impossible, Commander Zexthul replied. Nothing that large could have moved into position without our sensors detecting it. Sir, I'm beginning to suspect that this human doesn't move into position after we clear the area. I think he was already there when we conducted our search. The command center fell silent. The implications of Colonel Thaxamore's statement were disturbing. If the human sniper could remain undetected even during close-range searches, then conventional counter-sniper tactics were completely ineffective. Colonel, explain how that could be possible, General Voska demanded. Ma'am, I've studied the attack sites extensively. Each location shows signs of long-term preparation. Carefully constructed hide sites, pre-positioned equipment, escape routes that take advantage of natural terrain features. This individual isn't randomly selecting shooting positions. He's been planning these attacks for weeks or months in advance. Captain Mordex leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the holographic displays. Even if he can hide effectively, how does he consistently hit such small targets at impossible ranges? Our armor vulnerabilities are classified information. No human should know exactly where to aim. Sir, I believe he's been conducting reconnaissance for much longer than we initially realized. We've found evidence of extended observation posts overlooking our major installations. This human has been watching us, learning our equipment specifications, studying our behavioral patterns and identifying our tactical weaknesses. Lieutenant Quintar brought up tactical displays, showing the locations of all confirmed sniper attacks. Colonel, the pattern suggests systematic intelligence gathering. Each attack targets increasingly important personnel using knowledge gained from previous observations. Precisely, Lieutenant. This isn't random violence or opportunistic shooting. This is systematic warfare conducted by someone who understands our capabilities better than we understand his. Commander Zexthul manipulated the holographic controls, zooming in on specific attack sites. What about the ammunition itself? Our metallurgists analyzed the recovered projectiles and found unusual properties that shouldn't exist in human technology. Sir, we believe the human is modifying his equipment using materials salvaged from our crashed ships and damaged installations. He's somehow adapting our own technology to enhance his weapon's effectiveness against our defenses. The revelation hit the command center like a physical blow. Each officer realized that they weren't just facing a skilled enemy. They were confronting someone who was actively learning from every engagement, constantly improving his capabilities and turning their own technological advantages against them. This changes everything, General Voska said slowly. We're not dealing with a primitive savage using antique weapons. We're facing a highly intelligent opponent who's been conducting asymmetric warfare using principles we don't understand. On Kepler 442b's surface, Marcus Chen moved through the forest with supernatural quiet, carrying his modified rifle and a pack filled with equipment that represented months of careful preparation. He'd spent the morning observing a new alien installation, learning the layout, identifying key personnel, and planning his next series of attacks. The aliens were predictable in their responses to sniper attacks. They increased patrols, deployed additional sensors, and established overlapping fields of fire. But they never changed their fundamental approach to security, never adapted their tactical doctrine to account for an enemy who thought differently than they did. Marcus had learned more about alien technology in the past month than human scientists had discovered in years of analysis. Every crashed ship, every damaged piece of equipment, every abandoned installation provided new materials and knowledge that he could incorporate into his weapons and tactics. His rifle now fired bullets that could penetrate alien energy shields. His scope could see through their electromagnetic countermeasures. His ammunition was crafted from materials that their sensors couldn't reliably detect. Most importantly, his understanding of their psychological and tactical limitations gave him advantages that no amount of advanced technology could overcome. The aliens thought, in terms of overwhelming firepower and technological supremacy, they couldn't comprehend an enemy who preferred patience over aggression, precision over volume of fire, and intelligence over brute force. Their entire military doctrine was based on assumptions about warfare that simply didn't apply to human sniping traditions. Marcus reached his next position, a carefully prepared hide site that offered clear lines of sight to 3 different alien installations. He'd been developing this position for 2 weeks, moving equipment piece by piece, constructing concealment that would remain undetected even under close examination. Through his scope, he could see alien soldiers moving with obvious nervousness. They checked their surroundings constantly, scanned the horizon repeatedly, and maintained tight formations that limited their operational effectiveness. Fear was spreading through their ranks, and fear was a weapon that Marcus wielded as skillfully as his rifle. The Ghost was teaching the galaxy's most advanced military forces that sometimes the most primitive weapons, guided by ancient knowledge and applied with perfect patience, could achieve what the most sophisticated technology could not. Every shot was a lesson in human adaptability, and the aliens were unwilling students in a curriculum they couldn't understand. The emergency session of the Galactic Council's War Committee convened in the highest security chamber aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion. Representatives from 12 species gathered around the circular chamber, their various forms creating an otherworldly assembly. The subject of discussion was unprecedented in galactic military history: how one human sniper had disrupted their planetary occupation. Supreme Commander Korth Val, a massive Thurian whose scarred hide told stories of countless battles, activated the central holographic display. Fellow commanders, we face an unprecedented situation. Our ground forces on Kepler 442b are experiencing systematic degradation of operational capability due to the actions of a single human designated as Ghost. Admiral Nexista, a graceful Vexani whose translucent wings shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, leaned forward in her crystalline chair. Supreme Commander, surely our intelligence services are exaggerating the threat. One individual cannot seriously impact a planetary occupation involving 3 million soldiers. Admiral, the numbers are undeniable. 47 officers eliminated in 18 standard days. Supply convoys avoiding certain routes. Patrol units requesting reassignment. Most concerning, our casualty rates in affected areas have increased by 300% as soldiers become distracted by fear rather than focusing on their duties. General Morthek, a cybernetically enhanced Krathari whose mechanical implants glowed with cold blue light, accessed his personal databanks. I've analyzed every confirmed attack. The precision is impossible according to our understanding of human limitations. Shots exceeding 4,000 meters striking targets smaller than 5 centimeters. Accuracy that surpasses our most advanced automated weapon systems. Perhaps, suggested Counselor Vithara, an ancient Naxian whose coiled form contained centuries of military wisdom. We should examine this from a different perspective. What if human capabilities in this area have been systematically underestimated? The chamber erupted in chittering protests and dismissive gestures. Admiral Nexista's wings fluttered with agitation. Counselor, we've studied human physiology extensively. Their visual acuity is limited. Their motor control is imprecise. Their technology is primitive. These are biological facts, not matters of opinion. Yet the results speak for themselves, Counselor Vithara replied calmly. Perhaps our understanding of primitive requires revision. Supreme Commander Korthval brought up detailed tactical analyses of each attack. I've consulted with our best military theorists and they've identified several disturbing patterns. First, this human demonstrates intimate knowledge of our equipment vulnerabilities. Second, he consistently anticipates our tactical responses. Third, he appears to be improving his capabilities through systematic learning. General Morthek's mechanical eye focused intently on the data. Explain. Early attacks required multiple shots to achieve kills. Recent attacks succeed with single shots. Initial attacks targeted lower-ranking personnel. Recent attacks eliminate high-value targets with increasing precision. The interval between attacks has decreased while their effectiveness has increased. This individual is adapting faster than our countermeasures can evolve. Admiral Nexista accessed her ship's database, reviewing human historical records. I've been studying their military development. Humans have been perfecting individual marksmanship for over 800 years. They've developed training methodologies, equipment innovations, and tactical doctrines specifically focused on precision shooting. So, General Morthek's mechanical voice carried a dismissive tone. We've been developing military technology for millennia. Experience doesn't overcome technological limitations. Unless, Counselor Vithara said thoughtfully, experience teaches methods for overcoming those limitations through innovation and adaptation. The Supreme Commander activated a secure communication link to Colonel Thaxmore on the planet's surface. The veteran officer's image appeared, showing obvious signs of stress and exhaustion. Colonel, report on current situation. Supreme Commander, the ghost struck again this morning. Major Krelvax was eliminated while inspecting defensive positions. The shot came from an impossible angle. Our geometric analysis indicates the shooter would have needed to be positioned inside solid rock. That's physically impossible. Sir, we're beginning to suspect this human has developed techniques we don't understand. Our sensors detect no heat signatures, no electromagnetic emissions, no movement patterns. Yet precise shots continue to eliminate our personnel from locations that should be empty. General Morthek leaned forward, his cybernetic implants processing data rapidly. Colonel, describe the physical evidence at attack sites. Sir, that's the most disturbing aspect. We find no spent ammunition casings, no disturbance of vegetation, no trace evidence of human presence. It's as if the shots materialize from nothingness. Admiral Nexista's bioluminescent patterns dimmed with confusion. How is that possible with primitive projectile weapons? Ma'am, I believe this human has been salvaging our technology and incorporating it into his equipment. We found evidence of missing components from crashed ships and damaged installations. He's somehow adapting our materials to enhance his weapons' capabilities. The War Committee exchanged uneasy glances. The implications were troubling. If humans could successfully reverse engineer and improve alien technology using primitive manufacturing techniques, then the technological gap between species was smaller than previously believed. Supreme Commander Korthoval brought up planetary surveillance feeds. Colonel, show us your latest counter-sniper operations. Sir, we've deployed our most advanced detection equipment, established kill zones with overlapping fields of fire, and conducted systematic sweeps of suspected positions. Each effort fails to locate this individual. How do you know it's the same person conducting all attacks? Ballistic analysis confirms identical ammunition modifications. Tactical analysis shows consistent methodologies. Most importantly, intercepted human communications refer to these attacks as the work of their ghost, a single individual whose reputation is spreading throughout their resistance. Networks, Counselor Vithara's ancient eyes glowed with realization. Supreme Commander, I believe we're witnessing something unprecedented in galactic military history. This human represents the culmination of his species' approach to warfare, individual excellence applied with systematic precision. Meaning what exactly? Meaning that while we've focused on technological advancement and overwhelming force, humans have been perfecting the art of individual combat. They've developed capabilities that don't appear in our sensor arrays because they're based on biological skills, rather than technological solutions. General, Morthek's mechanical systems hummed with processing activity. Are you suggesting that primitive biological capabilities can overcome advanced technology? I'm suggesting that we may have misunderstood what primitive means in this context. If this human can consistently defeat our best detection systems, eliminate our personnel from impossible ranges, and adapt our own technology to enhance his capabilities, then perhaps his methods aren't primitive at all. The War Committee fell silent as they contemplated the implications. Below them, on the contested planet's surface, Marcus Chen was proving that human ingenuity, patience, and dedication could achieve results that the galaxy's most advanced civilizations considered impossible. In his latest hide site, Marcus adjusted his rifle's scope and prepared for his next shot. The aliens had deployed new countermeasures, but he'd already identified their weaknesses and developed methods to exploit them. Every engagement taught him something new about their limitations, and he was a very quick learner. The ghost was about to teach another lesson to students who were beginning to realize that their professor was far more dangerous than they'd ever imagined. Marcus Chen crouched in his most ambitious hide site yet, a position he'd been preparing for 3 weeks. Located directly beneath the alien's primary command center. The underground tunnel system had been excavated by hand, one handful of dirt at a time, during the dark hours when alien thermal sensors were least effective. Above him, through carefully placed fiber optic cables salvaged from crashed alien ships, he could observe the enemy's command structure in detail. The aliens had finally brought in their elite specialists, a counter-sniper team from the Galactic Council's most advanced military units. The team consisted of 3 species working in coordination. Crethari technicians operated sophisticated detection equipment that could supposedly track individual molecules across continental distances. Vexani psychics used biological sensors that detected emotional states and neural activity patterns. Most dangerous of all, Thurian hunters employed predatory instincts honed across millions of years of evolution to track prey through any environment. Marcus watched through his improvised periscope as the alien specialists examined his previous shooting positions. They moved with professional competence, analyzing soil disturbance patterns, atmospheric trace elements, and electromagnetic residue. Their equipment was more advanced than anything humanity had ever developed, and their natural abilities were formidable. But they were looking for evidence of advanced technology and conventional tactics. They expected to find energy weapon signatures, electronic countermeasures, and sophisticated concealment devices. Instead, Marcus had used techniques that were old when his grandfather's grandfather was born. Natural camouflage, patient observation, and intimate knowledge of the terrain. The Crethari technician, designated primary target, knelt at Marcus's most recent shooting position, running sensors across the ground. His equipment detected traces of human DNA, metal particles from bullet fragments, and chemical residue from gunpowder. Standard forensic evidence that any competent investigator would find. What they didn't detect was the fact that Marcus had deliberately left that evidence as misdirection. His actual shooting position had been 50 meters away, carefully prepared to leave no trace whatsoever. The aliens were analyzing the wrong location while standing directly over his current hide site. Through his scope, Marcus studied primary target's equipment and armor. The Crethari wore the most advanced personal protection available to Galactic Council forces. Energy shields that could deflect plasma blasts, armor plating that could withstand explosive impacts, and environmental systems that protected against chemical and biological weapons. But like all alien equipment, the armor had been designed to protect against alien weapons. Marcus had spent weeks studying captured examples, learning their operating principles and identifying their limitations. The energy shields were calibrated to stop high-velocity energy bolts, not the relatively slow-moving projectiles fired by modified human rifles. The armor plating was designed to distribute impact force across large surface areas, protecting against explosive weapons and beam attacks. It wasn't optimized to handle small, dense projectiles that could penetrate through focused pressure points. Most importantly, the environmental systems required small intake ports that couldn't be completely sealed without suffocating the wearer. Marcus had crafted his latest ammunition specifically for this target. The bullets were made from alien hull materials that he'd carefully shaped and treated, using techniques learned through months of experimentation. Each projectile contained a hollow cavity filled with corrosive compounds extracted from the planet's native flora, substances that would eat through alien armor. Materials on contact. The range was 847 meters, not his longest shot, but one that required perfect precision due to the target's advanced defenses. Wind speed was minimal in the underground environment, but atmospheric pressure differences between his position and the surface created subtle ballistic effects that required careful calculation. Marcus controlled his breathing, entering the meditative state that his grandfather had taught him decades ago on the Montana ranch. Shooting isn't about the gun, the old man had said. It's about becoming one with everything between you and the target, the air, the light, the distance, the moment when everything aligns perfectly. Through his scope, Marcus could see the Crethari specialist's vulnerable point, a small gap where the neck armor met the helmet's environmental seal. The opening was less than 3 centimeters wide, protected only by a flexible membrane that allowed for head movement. A precise shot at the correct angle would penetrate the membrane and deliver the corrosive payload directly to the target's respiratory system. The Vexani psychic suddenly stopped moving, his compound eyes glowing brighter as his biological sensors detected something unusual. Marcus felt the alien's mental probe brushing against his consciousness, a strange sensation like cold fingers touching his thoughts. But Marcus had been expecting this. Human military. Psychologists had theorized about alien mental abilities and developed countermeasures based on meditation techniques borrowed from Earth's martial arts traditions. Marcus emptied his mind of conscious thought, focusing only on the physical sensations of breathing, heartbeat, and the weight of his rifle. To the psychic's senses, he became indistinguishable from the surrounding environment. The Thurian hunter was more dangerous in some ways. His predatory instincts didn't rely on technology or psychic abilities. He simply understood how prey behaved, and Marcus was definitely prey in this situation. But Marcus had studied Earth's greatest human hunters, learning techniques developed by indigenous peoples who had survived by outthinking predators far more dangerous than any alien. The key was not to avoid being hunted, but to control how the hunter perceived the hunt. Marcus had spent days preparing false trails, misleading scent markers and deceptive traces that would lead the Thurian away from his actual position. Like a master chess player, he was thinking several moves ahead of his opponent. Primary target stood up, apparently satisfied with his analysis of the false shooting position. Through Marcus's scope, the vulnerable gap in his armor was perfectly aligned. Wind conditions were optimal. Atmospheric pressure was stable. All factors converged in the perfect moment that separates successful shots from near misses. Marcus squeezed the trigger with the same smooth pressure his grandfather had taught him to use when hunting deer in the Montana wilderness. The modified bullet traveled its path through the thin underground air, carrying with it centuries of human knowledge about precision, patience, and the deadly art of making impossible shots. The Krathari specialist collapsed without a sound. The corrosive compound worked exactly as Marcus had calculated, penetrating the armor's vulnerable point and incapacitating the target before he could call for help. The other team members spun around, sensors and instincts searching for a threat they couldn't detect. Marcus was already moving through his escape tunnel, following a route he'd prepared weeks earlier. Behind him, he could hear the aliens' confused shouting as they tried to understand how their most advanced specialist had been eliminated from an impossible position. The ghost had struck again, demonstrating to the galaxy's elite military forces that sometimes the most sophisticated hunters could become prey for someone who understood older, deadlier rules of engagement. Above ground, alien reinforcements were already rushing toward the area, but they would find only empty tunnels and carefully placed false clues leading in the wrong direction. By the time they realized they'd been outmaneuvered, Marcus would be miles away, preparing his next lesson in the ancient art of precision warfare. The aliens were learning that human primitive tactics were only primitive if you didn't understand their true sophistication. Marcus was about to teach them that lesson in ways they would never forget. The emergency council meeting aboard the Eternal Dominion was unlike anything in galactic military history. Supreme Commander Korthval faced the assembled leadership with news that challenged everything they understood about warfare, technology, and the nature of combat itself. The specialist team has been eliminated, he announced to the shocked silence of the chamber. Our most advanced counter-sniper unit, equipped with the finest detection technology available, neutralized by the same human they were sent to capture. Admiral Nexista's bioluminescent patterns flickered with disbelief. That's impossible. The Krathari specialist alone carried sensors capable of detecting molecular traces across kilometers. The Vexani psychic could read thoughts from orbit. The Thurian hunter was descended from apex predators. How could one human overcome all three? The details are disturbing. Supreme Commander Korthval continued, activating holographic displays showing the attack site. The Krathari was eliminated by a shot fired from directly beneath our command center, through underground tunnels that our geological surveys said didn't exist. General Morthek's cybernetic implants processed the tactical data rapidly. Sir, our deep surface scans showed solid bedrock in that area. No natural or artificial excavations were detected. The human created them manually, one handful of dirt at a time, using tools he crafted from salvaged materials. The tunnels are too small for our equipment to detect and follow contours that avoid our sensor grids. It represents engineering knowledge we didn't credit humans with possessing. Counselor Vithara's ancient form coiled thoughtfully. Supreme Commander, I believe we're witnessing the fundamental difference between our approach to warfare and theirs. We rely on technological solutions to tactical problems. This human relies on time, patience, and intimate understanding of his environment. But time and patience can't overcome technological superiority, protested Admiral Nexista. Our sensors are accurate to molecular levels. Our weapons can target objects in different star systems. Our defenses can withstand planetary bombardment. Yet none of those capabilities have stopped this human from consistently eliminating our personnel, Counselor Vithara observed. Perhaps superiority isn't determined by the sophistication of our tools, but by the effectiveness of their application. The chamber's main screen activated, showing Colonel Thaxmore's increasingly haggard appearance. The ground commander's stress was evident in every gesture as he delivered his latest report. Supreme Commander, the situation has deteriorated beyond our worst projections. The elimination of the specialist team has caused complete breakdown in unit cohesion. Companies are refusing patrol assignments. Officers are requesting emergency reassignment. Some units have abandoned their positions entirely. Colonel, you command 3 million soldiers equipped with the galaxy's most advanced weapons. How can one human cause such disruption? Sir, it's not just about casualties anymore. This human has demonstrated that our most sophisticated defenses are ineffective against his tactics. If he can eliminate our elite specialists inside our most secure perimeter, then none of our personnel are safe anywhere on the planet. General Morthek leaned forward, his mechanical eye focusing intently. Colonel, explain the psychological impact in military terms. Sir, our soldiers joined the Galactic Council forces believing in technological supremacy. They were trained to rely on sensors, shields, and superior firepower. This human has systematically demonstrated that those advantages don't guarantee survival. He's introduced an element of uncertainty that our tactical doctrine can't address. Supreme Commander Korthval manipulated the holographic displays, showing casualty reports and operational readiness assessments. The numbers are unprecedented. Combat effectiveness has decreased by 70% in affected areas. Resource allocation for defensive measures has increased by 400%. Most concerning, other human resistance cells are adopting similar tactics. Other cells? Admiral Nexista's wings fluttered with alarm. Intelligence reports indicate that this ghost has been training additional human snipers. They're sharing techniques, equipment modifications, and tactical knowledge throughout their resistance networks. What began as one individual has evolved into a systematic approach to asymmetric warfare. The revelation hit the chamber like a physical blow. Each commander realized they weren't just facing a single exceptional enemy, they were confronting a new form of warfare that could spread throughout human-occupied territories. Counselor, Vithara's eyes glowed with ancient wisdom. We've been approaching this incorrectly from the beginning. We assumed that human resistance would follow conventional patterns, mass formations, technological competition, direct confrontation. Instead, they've developed methods that exploit our psychological and tactical assumptions. What do you mean? Supreme Commander Korthval asked. We expect enemies to fight using tools and tactics that we understand. This human fights using principles that predate our technological civilization. He's not trying to match our capabilities. He's circumventing them entirely. General Morthek's processors hummed with analysis. Are you suggesting that primitive tactics can systematically defeat advanced technology? I'm suggesting that what we call primitive may actually be more sophisticated than we realized. This human has demonstrated capabilities that our best scientists consider impossible. Perhaps the fault lies not in his methods, but in our understanding of those methods. The chamber fell silent as commanders contemplated implications that challenged their fundamental assumptions about warfare and technology. On the planet's surface below, Marcus Chen was preparing his most ambitious operation yet, an attack that would force the aliens to confront the true extent of human adaptability. Marcus had spent the past week observing the aliens' orbital support facilities, learning their schedules, identifying their vulnerabilities, and planning an assault that would demonstrate the ultimate evolution of human sniping techniques. His target wasn't just another ground commander or specialist team. Marcus was going to shoot down a spacecraft. The modified rifle in his hands represented months of careful engineering, incorporating alien materials and human ingenuity in ways that neither species had previously considered possible. The ammunition was crafted from core materials salvaged from crashed alien ships, shaped using techniques learned through systematic experimentation. Most importantly, Marcus had identified the one vulnerability that no amount of alien technology could eliminate: the psychological assumption that certain attacks were impossible. The aliens' orbital craft maintained predictable flight patterns because they believed themselves safe from ground-based threats. Marcus was about to teach them that human precision could reach anywhere, eliminate any target, and overcome any defense through the application of knowledge, patience, and skill that had been perfected across centuries of human conflict. The Ghost was preparing to demonstrate that the scope of human capabilities extended far beyond anything the galaxy had previously imagined. This shot would be heard across every occupied world, every resistance cell, and every alien command center in the galaxy. The revolution in warfare was about to reach orbital altitudes. Marcus Chen lay motionless on the mountain peak, his modified rifle aimed at a target that shouldn't have been possible to hit from the planet's surface. Above him, the alien command shuttle followed its predictable orbital pattern, its crew confident in their invulnerability to ground-based attacks. The shot Marcus was attempting had never been tried in human history. The target was moving at 17,000 kilometers per hour, at an altitude of 42 kilometers. Environmental factors included extreme atmospheric thinning, gravitational effects from 3 moons, and electromagnetic interference from the ship's own defensive systems. But Marcus had spent 6 weeks calculating every variable, crafting custom ammunition from alien materials, and modifying his rifle with components salvaged from the most advanced technology the galaxy could produce. The weapon in his hands was no longer recognizably human, yet it embodied principles that his grandfather had taught him on the Montana ranch decades ago. Through his scope, enhanced with alien optics and human ingenuity, Marcus tracked the command shuttle's approach. The ship carried General Voska herself, the Naxian commander who had dismissed human snipers as laughably inefficient. She was making a personal inspection of ground operations, believing herself safe in the impregnable sanctuary of orbital space. Marcus controlled his breathing, entering the deepest meditative state he'd ever achieved. Every heartbeat, every muscle fiber, every conscious thought focused on the single moment when all factors would align for an impossible shot. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. The greatest shots aren't about distance or difficulty, they're about understanding. That some targets need to be hit to change everything that comes after. The ammunition was Marcus's masterpiece of adaptation and innovation. Each bullet contained alien materials that he'd learned to shape and treat through months of experimentation. The projectile core was made from crashed ship hull fragments, reforged using techniques that combined human metallurgy with alien physics. The casing held propellant compounds extracted from alien energy cells and stabilized using Earth plant derivatives. Most critically, the bullet's design incorporated gravitational acceleration principles that Marcus had derived from studying alien navigation systems. Instead of fighting the complex forces acting on a projectile at orbital altitudes, his ammunition was designed to use those forces to enhance accuracy and impact velocity. The shuttle approached the optimal interception point. Marcus made final adjustments to his scope, accounting for atmospheric refraction, gravitational lensing, and the target's acceleration through 3-dimensional space. The calculations required mathematical precision that pushed human cognitive abilities to their absolute limits. Through his enhanced scope, Marcus could see individual details of the alien spacecraft. Energy shields glowed around the hull, designed to deflect attacks from other ships' weapon systems. Point defense systems tracked incoming threats with mechanical precision. The ship's armor could withstand direct hits from capital ship weaponry, but like all alien technology, the defensive systems were designed to stop alien weapons. The energy shields were calibrated for high-velocity energy beams and guided missiles. The point defense systems were programmed to intercept large, fast-moving threats with predictable trajectories. The armor was optimized to distribute impact forces from explosive warheads and plasma charges. Marcus's bullet would be too small for the point defense systems to track reliably, too slow to trigger the energy shield's automatic responses, and too dense to be deflected by armor designed for different types of impacts. If his calculations were correct, the projectile would penetrate the ship's defenses like they didn't exist. The target reached optimal position. Marcus squeezed the trigger with the same smooth pressure he'd used for thousands of practice shots, following through with perfect form developed across years of dedicated training. The rifle's recoil felt different, heavier, more powerful than any shot he'd ever fired. The bullet began its impossible journey through 42 kilometers of increasingly thin atmosphere, following a trajectory that had to account for the planet's rotation, the target's orbital velocity, gravitational effects from multiple celestial bodies, and atmospheric conditions that changed with altitude. Seconds later, The impossible became reality. The bullet struck the command shuttle's bridge with devastating precision, penetrating the energy shields without triggering defensive responses, passing through armor plating that had been designed to stop much larger weapons. The alien materials in the projectile's core reacted with the ship's hull in ways that Marcus had calculated, but never tested at this scale. General Voska's command shuttle died instantly, its primary systems cascading into failure as alien technology met human precision, in a combination that neither species had previously considered possible. The ship's death throes lit up the sky like a new star as it tumbled toward the planet's surface. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Supreme Commander Korthval watched in stunned silence as impossible became inevitable. The flagship's sensors had tracked the projectile's entire flight path, confirming what their tactical doctrine said couldn't happen. A surface-based kinetic weapon had successfully engaged and destroyed an orbital target. "Analysis," he commanded, though his voice carried the hollow tone of someone whose fundamental assumptions about reality had just been shattered. "Sir," reported the ship's tactical officer, "projectile originated from planetary surface, traveled through 42 kilometers of atmosphere, struck target with precision accuracy, despite orbital velocity and multiple gravitational influences. Impact velocity exceeded our shield threshold parameters by 400%. Admiral Nexus's bioluminescent patterns had gone completely dark." How did he calculate the trajectory? The computational requirements alone should exceed human cognitive capacity. "Ma'am, preliminary analysis suggests the projectile's design incorporated principles from our own navigation systems. The human appears to have reverse-engineered our gravitational manipulation technology and applied it to kinetic weaponry." The implications crashed over the alien command staff like a tsunami of realization. If humans could successfully adapt alien technology to enhance their primitive weapons to this degree, then the technological gap between species was not just smaller than believed, it might not exist at all. Counselor Vithara's ancient voice carried new respect, and something approaching fear. "Supreme Commander, I believe we've been witness to the evolution of warfare itself. This human has demonstrated that individual skill, properly applied with adapted technology, can achieve strategic effects that our entire fleet was designed to prevent." "What are you saying, Counselor?" "I'm saying that perhaps primitive and advanced are not the categories we thought they were. This human has shown capabilities that transcend our understanding of what individual soldiers can accomplish. If other humans can learn these techniques..." The sentence hung unfinished in the command chamber's air, but every alien present understood its implications. They weren't just facing one exceptional enemy, they were confronting the possibility that their technological superiority was based on assumptions that humans were systematically proving wrong. On the planet's surface, Marcus Chen watched the burning wreckage of the command shuttle streak across the sky. The shot had been perfect, but more importantly, it had been seen. Across the planet, human resistance fighters were celebrating the impossible made real. Across the galaxy, alien commanders were questioning everything they thought they knew about warfare. The Ghost had taught his final lesson to the galactic community, that human precision, human adaptability, and human determination could reach any target, overcome any defense, and achieve any objective when guided by knowledge that transcended the limitations of technology. The aliens had mocked humanity's snipers as primitive relics using antique weapons. They had learned, too late, that sometimes the most ancient arts, perfected through centuries of dedication and enhanced by adaptive genius, could humble the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. The scope had revealed more than just targets. It had shown the universe that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had dared to imagine.